Hi, PECO holders. This is Korean, the host of the onboard Inside Crypto podcast. I hope you have been keeping well. It's been a long time since the last PECO podcast again, because we do these every other week. And as usual, we want to get into our TLDR before we start talking about our PECO token and the news for the week. So the TLDR today is UI updates. So one of the things you're going to notice in today's episode is UIs, and generally in crypto, right? Over this building period, over the bear market, you're going to notice lots of protocols have been focused on making things easier. A great example is our tokens.onboard.com dashboard. Very easy to use, very easy to see, easy to get all your data there. It's when you want to swap tokens on our website, also easy. Two of the protocols we're going to talk about today, they're also doing the same thing. They want to make it easier for people who are new to crypto to get the things done that they want to do. And I think that is something we're going to see move ahead at like lightning speed, not Bitcoin lightning speed, but just lightning speed, so that new people to crypto, people can get in, do the stuff they want to do without complex transactions, without signing your wallets multiple times, just an easy interface for swapping or NFTs or whatever it is you want to do. Again, this week we also continue the narrative of lending and borrowing. We've had a bunch of people who have appeared on the Friday interview style podcast, right? They've talked about lending and borrowing, over collateralized, under collateralized borrowing and lending. Check out previous episodes. You will find a lot about that. That is another thing to talk about. And again, a question you guys can think about is, why is this happening now? Why are there so many lending and borrowing platforms launching? Why is it so hot? We're going to talk about vault incentives today when it comes to QiDao. But again, incentives are another thing you'll see over the summer, because as the market has drawn down in a big way, companies and protocols need to incentivize liquidity, incentivize community interaction. How are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Is it sustainable? The next thing we're going to talk about are roadmaps. One of the things people always suggest when you're getting into cryptos, have a look at the protocol's roadmap. Is it sustainable? Is it workable? Is it doable? How much money does this roadmap require? Do they have the funding to execute on this roadmap? Do they have the talent to execute on the roadmap? And the last thing we're going to talk about today is crypto adoption, right? So we know in places like Argentina, crypto is being adopted at a super fast pace because they have huge amounts of inflation. Turkey is another place. We're going to talk about Indonesia and Brazil today as well. Brazil has always been talked about as another potential country where Bitcoin is legalized. Given the bear market, given the world economy, I don't know how much that's going to happen today. But anyway, let's jump into our PECO token for today and have a look at how it is doing. So PECO is currently up 3.86% in the last week, $2.53 at the moment, at the time of recording this podcast, which is October 10th, 2022. The current market cap is $226,230. Methodology is the same. So since the last time we have done a PECO podcast, we have rebalanced already, but the constituents have not changed, I guess, because the market's pretty much the way it is. Allocations might have changed. You guys want to look at that yourselves to compare. Matic at 50.84%, Aavegotchi 16.85%, Gains at 16.68%. So Gains was number 2 the last time I remember. Aavegotchi was number 3. Quickswap number 4, 8.36%. That is pretty much it. Let's look at the price, right? So if you just bought Matic, you can see Red PECO's underperforming Matic at this point in time. Matic is actually performing above PECO. Matic 6.94% here, for example, on October 8th. PECO 3.51%. Let's look at Ghost. All right, and PECO's performing Gotchi's Ghost in a way better way. Let's look at Quickswap. Look at Quick. And again, PECO's performing Quick again in a better way as well. That's also cool. Let's move on to Polygon's TVL. So locked TVL and Polygon is $1.3 billion. Again, it's down by 0.67% in the last 24 hours. Aave is dominant, 23.18%. Quickswap number 2, Curve number 3. There's a huge difference, right? $70 million between 1 and 2. And then $130 million between Quickswap and Curve. And then about $20 million between Curve and Uniswap. Beefy number 5, Balancer number 6, Climate Down number 7, Sushi number 8, Mesh Swap number 9. That must be new. Stargate number 10. So that is interesting. Before we get into our news, as usual, we have a brief news clip from the IMF talking about their expectations for the global economy. It's about a 2-minute video. So as usual, if you would like to skip it, please go ahead and skip it. If you would like to listen, go ahead and listen. And then we will start off as usual with our Matic news for the week.
Our world economy is like ship in choppy waters. The head of the International Monetary Fund warned that the outlook for the world economy was darkening, prompting the IMF to lower its global growth forecast for 2023 for the fourth time this year. Speaking at Georgetown University Thursday, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva cited shockwaves caused by the global health crisis, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and climate disasters as signs that the global economy could get much worse, and that as a result, the IMF would downgrade its current 2.9% global growth projection when it releases its World Economic Outlook next week.
We are experiencing a fundamental shift in the world economy from one of relative predictability with the rules-based framework on international economic cooperation, very low interest rates, low inflation, to a world with more fragility, greater uncertainty, higher economic volatility, geopolitical confrontations, and more frequent and devastating natural disasters. A world in which any country can be thrown off course more easily and more often.
She added that all the world's largest economies, Europe, China, and the United States, were now slowing down, which was dampening demand for exports from emerging and developing countries already hit hard by high food and energy prices. The war in Ukraine and global economic risks will dominate next week's annual meetings of the IMF and the World Bank in Washington, which bring together finance ministers and central bankers from around the world. Overall, the IMF expects global output to shrink by $4 trillion between now and 2026. That is roughly the size of the German economy and amounts to what Georgieva called a massive setback.
Steady the ship.
All right, everyone, welcome back to our Matic news for the week. So if you don't know, I am South African, despite having lived in Taiwan for the last 13 years, going on 14 years. But I thought this was really cool. This also coincides with a bunch of stories I feel has come out in the last 6 to 8 weeks with about a bunch of tech companies, Google being the most primary, which I said they're launching their first sort of cloud infrastructure in Africa, in South Africa. And that makes sense because we have 5G in South Africa and pretty decent 5G, a lot of fibers in South Africa as well. Whereas I think a large part of Africa in general doesn't have a lot of fiber. So again, Polygon's there, don't miss the fun. Blockchain is there, and you will see later when we talk about adoption. South Africa is up there in crypto adoption. I know some of you guys in the Amun community are from South Africa, and I appreciate it for supporting this podcast and Amun as well. But yeah, so one of the things, if you're in South Africa, or if you're in Africa, right, most people are traveling now. You should definitely go to South Africa, check out some crypto events. It might be worth your time. All right, and let's move on to our next story for today, which is about the Gotchiverse. Aavegotchi, right, one of the most famous Web3 games. They had a recent Mosaic Tiles art contest winners confirmed. It says the competition was fierce yet friendly as the Aavegotchi community gathered for the much anticipated Gotchiverse Mosaic Tiles art contest, featuring 10K Ghost and prizes. I believe Ghost is about $2 and something, so that's about $20,000. Dozens of beautifully designed tile arrangements were on display. Some stole the show with dazzling detail. Very true. So first prize, $5,000, like that's 10K. Second prize, $7,000. Third prize, $3,000. And then they have some NFT stuff over there. So Notorious BTC, take the Gotchi pill. That is beautiful. Become the Gotchi not, be one with the Gotchiverse. I like it. All right, number 2. Stars Story, To the Moon and Beyond. Again, beautiful. And then number 3, Road to Synth City. Very cool. I like the landscape in the background. Well, look at the first 5. Okay, Gotchified remake of the classic Nyan Cat. Again, that's a very famous meme. You have to Google that yourself if you don't know what that is. Let's go Bankless. And I guess this would be in reference to the Bankless podcast, maybe? I'm not 100% sure. But again, very cool. So even though we'll have a look at these as usual, all the links to the podcast will be down in the show notes below. Definitely show the Gotchiverse some love. Don't forget, in Aavegotchi, you can now go into the Gotchiverse as an observer without having to buy a ghost or an NFT, and just have a look around if you want to invest in their ecosystem. Again, not sponsored by me, right? Aavegotchi, anything like that. Just something I wanted to mention. You know, a lot of Web3 games, you have to have a wallet, you have to be invested in the ecosystem. One of the things Aavegotchi recently launched is that you don't have to be involved in the ecosystem, which is, I think, is wonderful. That is a way to promote Web3 involvement and Web3 awareness as well, especially when it comes to GameFi. All right, let's jump into Gains Network. One of the things I want to mention as well is that we are trying to organize a Polygon Ecosystem Twitter Spaces at the moment. If you know any projects and you want to suggest them to me, please send me a message on Twitter, twitter.com/CranePadiachi. Come into, or you can tweet at Amun, let me know. Okay, and let's have a look at Gains. Gains has gone through a UI update. Again, this is the theme when it comes to today's episode, G-Trade UI. It says, our vision is to make G-Trade the most user-friendly, decentralized trading platform. To that end, we have taken the most requested suggestions from the community and rolled it all out in one big update. New favorite pair system. I think that is really cool, right? I find sometimes when you're doing trading on not just stocks and crypto, it's a bunch of other places, it's really hard to say, okay, this is the stuff I like and keep that in your like favorites, and I like how they have it up there, and your favorites should always be at the top of the menu so you don't have to look at them. Reddit has this problem. When I'm managing the Amun account, I have so many groups that I'm interacting with. I wish my priority groups could be moved up, and maybe there is a way to do it, but it's not easily shown to me. Okay, and let's look here. It says movable and revamped trading panel. Again, that's cool. You should be able to position menu elements any way you want to, like when it's out of your screen, or maybe you want to position it on your second screen if you have one. I think that is totally worth it. That is very cool. Customizable trading dashboard. Are you a minimalist or a maximalist? I'm definitely a minimalist when it comes to interfaces and UI. I love minimal UIs. I hate UIs with lots of details. Like you guys have heard me complain about Binance before. Binance has so much information on their app. It's just full of everything, and I wish there was a way. I believe there's a Binance Lite, but I wish there was a way that you could customize your experience on different apps and make it say, okay, I am a Binance user. I use staking. I use yield farming. I do 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are the only things I want to see in the app. That would make me so happy. Anyway, there's a bunch of changes over here. Please check them out. Jump into Gains is Telegram or Discord and show them some love. Tell them how much you like this new ICE. Let's move on to our next piece of news. All right, guys and girls and everyone wherever you are, our next piece of news is about Quickswap. Quickswap has launched Quickswap Lend. So borrowing and lending again comes into our theme of the last 2 or 3 months of crypto. Quickswap is proud to present Quickswap Lend, a brand new decentralized lending and borrowing suite. Accessible directly from the Quickswap homepage, Quickswap Lend allows users to access debt financing, maximize yield as liquidity providers, and conduct flexible risk management in alignment with their personal financial strategies, all while contributing to a more stable and robust Quickswap DeFi ecosystem. All right, so this explains how to use Quickswap. So this is choose your market. Quickswap Lend supports 3 markets: open market, a standard lending market that supports the most comprehensive array of assets, right? So this is interesting. Open market, it has the lowest supply. IB stablecoin market and IB market, okay. An IB market, a market for interest-bearing capital. Users may borrow money in exchange for interest-bearing assets. IB stable market, a market for supplying interest-bearing stablecoins. Very cool. Gauge your market. As always, at Quickswap, we are committed to providing our users with a simple, intuitive UI. I guess this is simple, but it's still like, looking at this, I feel like a lot of people will be lost with how to borrow and lend in Quickswap. This explains some of the terminology. This explains your borrow limit as well. I wish they'd explained, like, is this a under-collateralized or over-collateralized lending protocol? That was what they're doing, right? So it says here, pool info, pool utilization, total borrowed, $21. This doesn't explain a lot. Determine risk and return, utilization rate. A collateral fact: to correctly manage risk and reduce your chance of getting liquidated, the collateral factor metric displays the percentage of your supplied capital that you may borrow on a per asset basis. For instance, a 75% collateral factor indicates you may borrow a maximum of $75 for every $100 you supply. So this is under collateralized borrowing. Okay. At a collateral factor of 75%, borrowing $50 for every $100 you supply to the protocol significantly reduces your risk of liquidation. All right, so they are not as good as, and I wish I remember the name at the moment, right? Pranjal Prashar. He is developing a protocol for like really low borrowing, like 20% deposit your capital and you get to borrow from it, right? Final considerations. So very interesting. Good to see Quickswap moving in a direction that I feel is pretty hot in crypto at the moment. And let's go on to QiDao. So QiDao, QIP, QiDao Improvement Proposal 164, Vault Incentives Gauge, round 20, right? So these are vault incentives allocated a total of 150,000 Qi per week. So if you do use these vaults, you know, you have some incentives, right? And this shows more. These are the standards. So this is going to be very quick. The vote is already over as of yesterday at 9 a.m. And the vote, like with a little bit ahead of everyone else, is the wrapped Bitcoin. And Matic is one of those EVM blockchains, right? So compatible with a lot of stuff. So it makes sense. Wrapped Bitcoin is on there. The next one is Unilend, 9.3 million Qi, 15.66%. Beefy Aavegotchi, 15%. Beefy Aavegotchi, 14.94%. XX Link on Polygon, 7.39, 12%, and then we have a drop off after that. Good to see that people voted for wrapped Bitcoin, which should tell you something, like maybe Matic is something for us to look into. Okay guys, that is it for QiDao. Let us move on to our next story. This is also a relatively short story. So you've seen, if you follow us on the Amun account, right, I tweeted about this, that, you know, a lot of you guys don't know that in PECO we have a game. Now we have two games, right? So we've always had Aavegotchi for a long time, and now we have a second game, Genso, which is very famous in Taiwan and Japan, in Asia. They have a Switch game as well, but now they are converting this game into a Metaverse game, and people are asking them, like, what are you gonna do? And this is like a preview from their white paper that they're gonna launch. But as you can see, right, in this Metaverse events, anime, right? And again, anime would be very strong in Asia. Social e-commerce, dating, I can imagine. And they have an anime dating. And I can imagine, right, in Asia, anime dating would be very popular. You know, cosplay is huge here. Cosplay is pretty big all over the world, but cosplay is huge in Asia. And the Metaverse and tech and games, of course, coming from gaming, education as a platform for kids to go there and do some educational activities, programming. Roblox does that. They have some educational tools there. Scratch, you probably would have heard about that if your kids are in school. Housing culture, like some of these things, I have no idea how they're going to do it. But there's the latest light paper available if you want to read it. I knew we wouldn't have time for this today, so I did not include, but this is interesting, right? If you're a fan, I would definitely encourage you to check them out. Check out their Japanese Twitter and the English Twitter. There's a lot of stuff that is in the Japanese Twitter that is not on the English, but they are just like moving ahead because they have that strong base of having an existing game. They've got the financing, so they're jumping straight ahead into the NFT crypto blockchain metaverse. Okay, let's move on to Axion. So Axion posted, this is not related to Axion, but I thought this was interesting. This is about crypto ownership by country. Again, ownership we can connect with adoption. And as you can see, Brazil and Indonesia at the bottom. And I know a bunch of you guys are in the Amun community are from Indonesia. So that's really cool to see. The United Arab Emirates, again, lots of crypto companies based in the Middle East. Singapore, 30%. I find that surprising given how much anti-crypto legislation we've seen out of Singapore. Nigeria, South Africa, Israel, I'm not surprised there. People said Africa is going to be the place to adopt crypto. You guys should go listen to Christopher McGregor's podcast I released last week, Friday. He talked about mobile money, like the Kenyan e-peso and stuff. That is big, and they want to try and do mobile money with crypto rails. So that's going to be really cool. Okay, and so crypto adoption is happening, and it definitely looks like it's going to happen in developing countries first, or countries that are having inflationary problems, especially with the way the world is at the moment. And let's jump on to Beefy. So Beefy, this is very simple, right? Beefy has some incentives. I didn't find any sort of interesting news about Beefy beyond these usual stuff. The cool thing about this is all Bitcoin and Bitcoin liquidity pools, like auto compounding as well, right? So when you deposit it inside there, like let's say deposit your 1 Bitcoin, if you're lucky enough to have 1 Bitcoin, you're earning 2.3% interest, better than most interest in first world countries, right? And your interest is auto compounding. So as you're earning interest on a daily basis, you're getting more Bitcoin and you're earning more and more interest progressively, right? Definitely something for you to consider. This is on Curve as well, so please make sure you're aware of that. And somebody asked a good question, will the return be in dollars or in Bitcoin? I like it. Very, very cool. If you are a Bitcoin believer or a maxi or a holder, or you have some Bitcoin, that is a good way to earn some interest. I believe Binance has some options for Bitcoin interest. I don't think they're as high as Beefy, but definitely something. Again, Binance is custodial, whereas Beefy is non-custodial. All right, last piece of news for today is Unilend. And then again, this continues the theme of UIs this week. So it says, name a money market with a simpler UI. We'll wait. Product sneak peek season is here. So it says UFT DAI, Unilend Finance, DAI, Lend, Redeem, your liquidity 100,000. Very simple. I like it. I think this is going to be awesome. It's going to bring more people into crypto. We still need to get rid of the wallet system, I believe, in some way. If we can get rid of connecting wallets and signing transactions in MetaMask has so many extra details that I think most non-crypto people are just, it scares them. It scares me sometimes when I have to sign transactions. But good to see us moving in a more positive direction. And let's head back to our token page and have a look at PECO over here and end of today's discussion. I hope everyone is keeping well. There's been a lot of horizontal action in crypto. But beyond that, I want to mention that moving forward when it comes to our token shows, if there is no notable news, I might cut that out and spend more time focusing on multiple news items for a particular show. So if Matic has some big news, I will focus on that. But that being said, I don't want to make this a Matic show, right? So we're not going to fill this show with Matic news or anyone's particular news, but we might do 2 items for a particular protocol. Okay, and this week, guys, we have a very special podcast. Tom Wright, you've seen him on our Twitter. You've seen it from the Amun Twitter account. You've seen him on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, we'll be talking about his 4 favorite Dune Analytics dashboards. We're talking about stablecoins, NFTs, 3AC, Curve as well. If you're deep into crypto analytics, you do not want to miss this episode. I definitely highly encourage you to come and check it out. And then next week, we're talking about Munchdi. He's one of the developers of Blood Vessels, which is a really cool NFT game, a very story driven, but he comes from a very famous company, Congregate. And Congregate are really big into games. And like when I did the interview, I was so happy because it's so good to see game studios and big names in gaming get into Web3 and GameFi. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening and stopping by. Hope you are having a good start to the week. And then we will see you guys on Friday. Okay, bye, guys.